to rezone parts of the city. Next steps in the city's plans to build more affordable housing.
Plus,
Los Angeles would be burning right now.
The feud between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom escalates. This amid a growing legal battle between the state and the administration.
And Los Angeles is heading into its 5th night of protests against Trump's immigration policies. This as Trump deployed more National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to address the protests.
This is about Trump pretending that he is the king of this nation.
Why some lawmakers say the president is overstepping. Newswatch starts right now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Talia Milowich.
And I'm Charlie Ehlenfeld. Welcome to Newswatch.
It's been a beautiful sunny day here in Athens, but will it stick around?
To find out, let's turn it over to forecaster Steve Nedlick. Steve?
Yeah, guys, it's definitely been a beautiful one here today in Athens. Much warmer than we got yesterday, nearing 80, and again, those clear skies. Now, we actually do have some scattered showers to the south of us, but those haven't really affected us. They've just been kind of popping up here and there. But for the most part, a lot of southern Ohio has been dry today. Now, these temperatures did get cooled off a little bit with some of the rain that we saw yesterday, and those clouds were around in the morning, so we didn't get as much daytime heating as we normally would have. So we're sitting around the mid-70s for most of the area. Now, looking into tonight, some of those clouds are going to clear off, and that's going to allow us to have a pretty clear night overnight. So if you have any plans, make sure you grab a hoodie out the door, because it could get pretty chilly, and that could lead to some fog early in the morning. But as for tomorrow, we're going to heat up because those clouds are going to start moving out, and we're just going to get lots and lots of sunshine. So it's going to be a pretty pleasant few days, but stay tuned for my full forecast to find out what the weekend looks like.
Thanks, Steve. Athens City Council unanimously approved a measure to rezone a parcel of land on Hooper Street. The zoning change is the first step in a process to build a new multifamily affordable housing complex. There is already a developer interested in building the complex. Construction could start as early as July 2026. We'll have a more detailed story on the project on our website tomorrow.
The Appalachian Hellbetties took on the Chemical Valley Roller Derby. Over the weekend, players took part in the Pride Parade before heading over to the community center to take on the West Virginia team. Athens Roller Derby team is made up of a tight-knit community with something for everyone.
The community is so tight. I first started playing derby because I had my first child who's now in college, and he was in diapers at the time, and I didn't have any friends where I lived. It was a new town for me, but they had a derby league, and so that's what got me playing. I made like 30 immediate friends.
The team finished the competitive but friendly game with their 4th consecutive win of the season. Athens, Ohio Roller Derby is also working to start a junior league where those ages 14 to 17 can try it out. Jeep owners from all over southeastern Ohio were in Chillicothe celebrating their love of all things Jeep. Newswatch reporter Megan Acker has more from the 8th annual Jeep Fest.
They call themselves Jeepers. People absolutely enamored with Jeeps. And not just the classic Wrangler, Renegades, Liberties, Cherokees, dozens of them and their owners, all at the Ross County Fairgrounds over the weekend. Chad Lindsay is one of those owners. He has a 2010 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. This is his 4th Jeep Fest.
It's a good experience. It's great people to come here and talk with and get ideas for different builds.
This year, Chad placed first in the Trail Rated Challenge. It's just one of a number of events Jeepers can do at Jeep Fest. From the mud course to the Trail Rated Challenge to barrel racing, there were plenty of chances for people to get their Jeeps nice and dirty.
You think you're going a lot faster than you actually are because there's so much adrenaline going. You're just like, yes, we're going, we're getting it. And you watch your video and you're like, oh, I thought, well, I had fun.
But Jeep Fest isn't just about fun, it's about family too. Tyler Morey has a 2007 Wrangler, which he's letting his son drive in the barrel race, the same event Tyler did last year.
We were cheering on my son. He was worried about, well, what if I break your Jeep? I'm like, it's a toy for a reason.
And that is what makes Jeep Fest so special. Family, community, and fun.
Stop revving it!
Stop revving it! Transfer case. You're in reverse now.
It's a Jeep thing. Reporting for Newswatch, I'm Megan Acker in Chillicothe.
The Chillicothe paper mill will be closing 2 months from today. That's according to owner Pixel Specialty Solutions. This comes just months after Senator Bernie Moreno met with Pixel to discuss this issue, and Pixel decided to keep the mill open through December until they could find a new buyer. Now, the mill's last day of operation is set for August 10th. In a statement posted on Facebook, Pixel says the closure is because of an increase in staffing shortages and decreasing orders. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost announced millions in grant funding to address inmate addiction. This is the second round of funding for opioid remediation grant program. In this latest round, Yost's office is giving out $2.3 million in funding to 13 jails serving 18 counties across the state. The program gives county jails up to $200,000 per year to hire a full-time addiction services coordinator or contract a company that provides addiction services. Substance abuse is one of the leading causes of death for inmates in Ohio. The program hopes to decrease fatal overdoses in county jails.
Ohio Republicans want to reinstate a 24-hour waiting period for abortions, despite a judge's order blocking it. What lawmakers are calling the She Wins Act would require doctors to notify patients seeking abortions of the physical and psychological risks at least 24 hours before the abortion pill or procedure. It would also require the patient receive reviews of the person performing the abortion and lets the patient sue if they are not provided this information. Opponents say the bill violates a judge's order banning Ohio's previous 24-hour waiting period. A new bill seeks to honor a fallen corrections officer. The bill proposes mandatory life sentences without parole for inmates who kill a Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections or a Department of Youth Services employee. It also would require a mandatory 7-year sentence for inmates who commit felonious assault against an employee. The bill, called Andy's Law, is named after Officer Andrew Lansing. Lansing worked at Ross Correctional Institute, where he was killed by an inmate on Christmas Day in 2024. Ohio's May sales and income tax revenues came in above estimates, creating a surplus exceeding experts' expectations. In May alone, tax collections increased by 10% more than was estimated. Ohio now has a budget of surplus of $800 million, which is 3% higher than expected. This year, the state collected $9.3 billion in income taxes. The Office of Budget and Management is working on its analysis, which it will present to the committee negotiating differences between the House and Senate versions of the budget later this month.
The latest version of the state budget could make establishing passenger rail commuting more difficult. The House's version of the budget had set aside money for the to join the Midwest Passenger Rail Commission. But in the Senate's version, state senators, removed two $25,000 earmarks for Ohio to join the MIPRC. Some lawmakers worry that joining the commission would force the state to give up some legislative power. The bill would also change how the Ohio Rail Development Commission is organized by replacing the passenger rail representative's seat with a second freight rail representative. Opponents say the change could make the state look less prepared to handle passenger rail, which could impact potential federal funding.
The feud between President Donald Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom escalates.
This comes after California filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration after Trump sent the National Guard to address protests in Los Angeles. Brian Abel has more.
The war of words between President Donald Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom over the unrest in Los Angeles presses on today with a Truth Social post by the president calling Newsom incompetent while defending his decision to double the amount of federalized National Guard troops as well as activate roughly 700 Marines to the area. In the Oval Office today, President Trump continuing his criticism.
Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave them a little additional help, you would have Los Angeles would be burning right now.
This follows comments by the president Monday suggesting that his border czar, Tom Homan, should arrest Newsom. In a CNN interview afterward, Homan said Newsom has not done anything to warrant arrest. Newsom's reaction has been swift. The state of California now suing the Trump administration over federalizing the state's National Guard without the governor's approval. Responding to the new round of National Guard troops, Newsom retorted Monday on X that about 1,700 of the first 2,000 troops are sitting unused without orders. He also criticized the president's threats against him as an unmistakable step toward authoritarianism. And in an interview with Politico, Newsom characterized the president's decisions on sending troops and his personal attacks as unhinged. While the feud marches on, the protests have grown to at least a dozen states, while the ICE raids being protested against continue. At the White House, Brian Abel reporting.
Tensions rise in parts of downtown Los Angeles as demonstrators face off against law enforcement and the National Guard. This is as protests continue for the fifth night in a row. President Donald Trump mobilized another 2,000 National Guard members, doubling his initial deployment despite opposition from top California leaders. About 700 Marines have also been activated. Despite the protests, officials say ICE operations will not stop.
The federalization of the National Guard and then bringing in the Marines is something different. This is about Trump pretending that he is the king of this nation.
The Los Angeles protests have sparked similar demonstrations in other cities like Dallas, New York, and Atlanta. In San Francisco, 150 people were arrested near the Immigration Services building Sunday after some protesters ignored dispersal orders and engaged in acts of violence and vandalism, according to police.
Coming up, the Congressional Budget Office pushes back the deadline for when the country will go into a debt default, what this means for the future government spending.
And powering artificial intelligence is putting major strain on communication systems. How companies are tackling these challenges.
The sunshine is here. Find out how long it lasts next.
Hi, I'm Ken Burns. I've been making films about American history on PBS for nearly 50 years. There's no other place where I can tell our story for all of us. PBS belongs to the American people, to viewers like you. But our PBS is at risk because Congress is considering devastating funding cuts. We need your support now more than ever. Please visit protectmypublicmedia.org to make your voice heard and stand with PBS.
For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
We're on the precipice of a great discovery.
I love it.
Welcome!
Whoa,
Nelly! Let's set this palace on fire.
I love it.
Welcome to the News Hour.
What does it mean politically?
I love it.
Oh. Fasten your seatbelt.
I love it.
I love it. Delighted to hear it. You make a good team.
It was a nice sunny day today here in Athens as highs got almost to 80 degrees and we're currently under clear skies. Now, thankfully, that's because this cold front has finally made its way through our region, and that's what was giving us all those thunderstorms that we experienced yesterday with all of those clouds. And it did drop off temperatures just a bit because of, again, the rain and cold front. So it's bringing more cold air with it, and that cloud cover wasn't allowing any sun to reach the surface. So there wasn't any surface heating going on. So that's why we're just a little bit below average in terms of temperatures all across southern Ohio. Now, there are still some remnants hanging around us. We have a few pop-up showers south of us, but for the most part, we're dry all the way around. Now, there are some clouds that are trickling around, but they're going to be pushed out too, and that's going to lead to a pretty chilly overnight tonight as we're going to have highs lows in the mid 50s. So again, it's going to be pretty chilly tonight, and we might have some frost in the morning, and we'll definitely have some fog. Well, not frost, fog, because it's going to get so cool that some of that water is just going to evaporate out. Now, a big thing that's happening is we have a front that's setting up way up north, and what that's going to do is slowly start pushing some air down from the north, pushing it down to us. And you wouldn't think that's anything crazy because there's nothing coming down with it yet. But there is a ton happening up in Canada right now. There's over 200 wildfires that are taking place. And if I take you 18,000 feet up into the air, we start looking at the jet stream. And that's going to start pulling some of that smoke into our area. And that's with all of these wildfires that are going on. I mean, 11 just started alone today. So we're going to keep getting this hazy feel kind of. So even with all of these sunny skies that we're going to have, it's still going to have a little bit of a tint to it because we have this atmospheric smoke that shouldn't reach the ground, so it shouldn't affect many people that much. But again, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Again, tomorrow, not a lot of clouds other than that haze in the atmosphere, so we will have some of that surface heating. So we'll have a high of 84, which is right on average for this time of year, so it'll get back to that summer-like feel. And again, mostly sunny skies. Now, taking a look on Thursday, we have this front just kind of flatten out to our north, and that's really what's going to provide a lot of this rain that we're going to maybe experience this weekend, although the timing of that all is still kind of to be determined. But looking at the widespread, big picture moment here, it's all going to depend on how far south this front comes. We may get a lot of rain on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or we might not get much. So it's really depending on how much these models, process out this information. So we'll be watching for that as we head later into this week. But for the most part, a majority of this week should be pretty nice. Now, again, on Friday, we really start to heat up and we'll have all of this surface heating that's going to provide a lot of energy for us. So it could be a stormy weekend or it could not be, just depending on where this front comes with. So we just need to wait and see. So we might have a nice Father's Day weekend, we might not, but we will have a lot of moisture in the area heading into the beginning of next week. So we'll be watching for that.
So you mentioned those Canadian wildfires. Do we have to worry about any air quality stuff? I know that was a big thing last year. So
it might trickle down a little bit, but it's nothing like that last year where we had widespread alerts. It might just be something here and there, and it will just be for sensitive groups.
Okay, so just shorter term too. We're not worried about that long term.
Yeah, shorter term stuff.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, last year hit all the. Is there any chance that any fronts could blow that down later on in the summer, or is this just
It's just to be determined at this point, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Steve. There's a little more time on the clock in the race to avoid a U.S. debt default. The Congressional Budget Office has updated its forecast, pushing back the risk date by 2 weeks. The CBO now says the U.S. likely won't be at risk of defaulting on its debt until sometime between mid-August and the end of September. That's about 2 weeks later than originally predicted. The delay gives Republicans more time to finalize a sweeping tax and spending cuts package in the Senate, which already faced challenges in the House.
We all agree with our Senate colleagues who believe we need to cut more and more government waste, fraud, and abuse, obviously. But I told him, reminded him of the reality of the delicate balance we have in the House and the fact that we have a very broad caucus.
Officials warned lawmakers last month they must act by August or risk a default for the first time ever. Since hitting the $36 trillion debt ceiling in January, the government has used special measures to keep paying its bills. But once those tools run out, the U.S. won't be able to borrow more.
Artificial intelligence is significantly impacting computer and internet network infrastructures, leading to increased strain on data centers and communication systems. Ivan Rodriguez reports on what is being done to address some of the challenges attributed to the increased use of AI.
Amid the ongoing race to accelerate AI development, which has attracted billions of dollars in investment, many computer and internet networks powering AI are struggling to keep up.
The core constraints around networking is because AI is fundamentally network starved.
Jitu Patel says some of the constraints include bandwidth demands, energy consumption, and safety and security.
If you imagine what the world would look like if we didn't have these infrastructure constraints, you would actually be moving at an even faster pace with AI than what we are right now.
Patel says new networks are rolling out to handle AI's needs. In the meantime, he believes it's equally important to focus on outdated networks since they pose safety and security risks, including cyber attacks, data breaches, and outages.
The outdated networks need to be patched, they need to be updated, they need to be refreshed on a regular basis.
97% of IT leaders surveyed see modernizing networks as crucial to deploying AI, according to Cisco research. Cisco says that CEOs and IT leaders believe improved infrastructure could add value to businesses by driving revenue and providing cost savings.
There's only going to be two kinds of companies in the world. Companies that are very dexterous with the use of AI and companies that really struggle for relevance. And what we want to do is provide the infrastructure so that every company is in the first category, not the second, and they can actually use AI to the fullest potential that they can have.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Next, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dismissed a panel of experts that advised the nation's vaccine policy. Why Kennedy says the change is necessary.
President Bashar al-Assad has been brought down.
Thousands of people celebrated.
The inside story of mass detention, torture, and killing, told by those who carried it out. And their victims.
ما بحسن يعني إنه يكون شادي عم يتعذب وأنا عم بسمع صوت العذاب.
ما بعرف كيف ممكن نتجاوز هالواقع وكيف بدنا نداوي جروحاتنا.
Tonight at 10 on WOUB.
For intelligent, insightful reporting.
Were you surprised that they were using Signal to talk about really sensitive stuff?
There have been screw-ups in Washington since time immemorial, but I can't think of one quite like this.
Join moderator Jeffrey Goldberg and the country's best journalists for incisive analysis of the most consequential stories.
There's been a lot of soul-searching on the Democrat side about what went wrong.
Once these tariffs go in, the question becomes how long they will stick to this policy and what will be the breaking point.
I just found something quite extraordinary.
Look at those teeth. 150 million years ago, the oceans were dominated by a mysterious sea monster, and this could be one of the largest, best-preserved skulls ever found. Now, working with scientists, we can uncover more about this prehistoric giant than ever before. Could this be the greatest Jurassic predator that ever lived?
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB. Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dismissed an expert panel of vaccine advisors that historically guide the federal government's vaccine recommendations. Kennedy said the group is, quote, plagued with conflicts of interest. He said the 17-member advisory committee for immunization practices will be retired and replaced with new members. The group is made up of pediatricians, immunologists, epidemiologists, and other physicians. Kennedy has the authority to appoint and dismiss committee members, but removing the entire panel is unprecedented.
It was deeply surprising. No one really saw this coming. There were some questions about some members who had had their status become inactive for periods of time because of administrative problems, but this is really very surprising to all of us.
It is unclear when Kennedy will appoint the new panel members and whether this will impact the rollout of flu and COVID-19 vaccines this fall.
While apps and smartphones can help keep youth connected, excessive use of this technology can also impact a child's mental health. Mandy Gaither has the warning signs of digital distress and ways to help teens get through it.
From online interactions to social media scrolls, these days it can be hard to get away from technology, and it can take a toll on youth.
Really, in the last 10 to 15 years, I have seen more and more digital screen distress.
Dr. Jennifer Zumaraga with El Camino Health describes digital distress as a combination of excessive screen use and a negative impact on mental health. She says it can lead to anxiety or depression. Warning signs can include irritability, isolation, withdrawal, hopelessness, aggression, and in extreme cases, she says some will have suicidal thoughts or self-harm behaviors.
I think the biggest thing is really the basis is communication and trying to find out what the kids are seeing, the content of what they're looking at, as well as the amount of screen time that they are using.
Zumaraga says excessive screen time can interfere with nutrition, activity levels, and sleep. It can also impact focus and attention, with some teens having a difficult time setting boundaries for themselves to get off their screens. That's why she suggests parents set up a digital plan. It includes screen limits and coming up with activities to replace the time usually spent on a device. She says getting outdoors or meeting up with other families can help encourage connection. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Still ahead, spring's final full moon is here. Find out where and when you can see it.
The only things that really interest me are forensics and criminology.
I need her on my team.
The solution lies in looking at it from a different angle.
Patience is the only one who spotted a pattern between those deaths.
Your father was a police officer.
I need to solve the case. I can't leave a puzzle unsolved any more than you can.
Sunday at 8 on WOUB.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
I am always here to serve and to listen. The good Reverend, love 'em and leave 'em. I want to find someone like you found Kathy.
Help! Please!
Everyone who witnessed a murder today, hands up.
Deep, dark secrets. We all have those.
There is something else you should know. What is this? This is who I am.
A new season of Grantchester on Masterpiece Mystery.
Sunday at 9 on WOUB.
The Renaissance is endlessly conflicted and violent. And once you start to mix art and money, it's a lethal cocktail.
Michelangelo knows that he is going to be judged.
When it's finished, Leonardo moves to a new level of fame.
Raphael is going to steal Michelangelo's legacy.
Rivalry is embedded within the Renaissance.
Regardless of your stage of life, whether you're starting your first job, getting the keys to a new home, or enjoying retirement, it's never too early or too late to create an estate plan to care for loved ones and support the causes that are meaningful to you. WOUB Public Media is pleased to have partnered with Giving Dogs, a free resource for building an estate plan that fits your needs and protects the people and causes you care about. Visit WOUB.org and click the support tab to get started today.
The final full moon of spring, known as the strawberry moon, will happen early on Wednesday, June 11th. But scientists say the best time to see it will be tonight. June's strawberry moon will be the lowest full moon of the year for stargazers north of the equator. The strawberry moon is named for the wild strawberries that ripen this time of the year.
So you guys big on looking at the stars, telescopes, anything like that?
Yeah, I love stargazing with friends when it's a clear night out.
Yeah. No, I was just on a Deep Creek with some family. We're looking up at the stars because it's such a beautiful night.
You can't beat it. It's so much fun. And I know definitely for tonight, it's going to be a beautiful night because we're going to have clear skies all the way throughout. A low of 55, so if you do go stargazing, make sure you grab maybe a sweatshirt or maybe a hat if you get extra cold. But then as we look for the rest of the week, Thursday and Friday, much of the same. Some clouds are going to move in on Friday, and that's when we might have the chance for a few raindrops. But for the most part, on Saturday, that's our main rain threat before that moisture really starts to set up in our area and leaves for a pretty rainy end of the weekend, Sunday, Monday, and then on Tuesday, we have another chance for thunderstorms. But we should enjoy the middle of this week because it's a pretty nice one so far.
Well, thanks for watching us tonight.
Have a good night.
We're on the precipice of a great discovery.
Fasten your seatbelt.
Support comes from Visit Athens County. More information can be found at AthensOhio.com. Athens, it's more than a place.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Nawaz. On the NewsHour tonight, President Trump sends thousands more National Guard troops to Los Angeles as protests against immigration raids spread to multiple cities nationwide.
Vaccine proponents raise alarms as Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fires the entire CDC vaccine advisory panel.
And an increase in U.S. deportations of immigrants from India leaves many with an uncertain future in their homeland.
In general, people from India who are migrating with improper documents come from the lower middle class. Many will borrow mortgage-sized sums of money to pursue their dreams.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions, and friends of the NewsHour, including Kathy and Paul Anderson, and Camilla and George Smith.
A successful business owner sells his company and restores his father's historic jazz club with his son. A Raymond James financial advisor gets to know you, your passions, and the way you bring people together. Life well planned.
And with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the NewsHour. After a night of scattered protests against immigration raids in Los Angeles, about 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guard troops began arriving today. California Governor Gavin Newsom and the state's Attorney General asked a court to block further intervention from the Trump administration.
But protests against ICE spread to other cities around the country this week. And for his part, the president gave no sign of backing down, saying the Guard and Marines were needed in Los Angeles. In a speech at Fort Bragg today, he called protesters a foreign enemy and animals and said he would use every asset to quell violence. Special correspondent